What is up, guys? My name is Caleb. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be doing a review of the Mr. Freedom Road Champ Engineer boots. Released by Mr. Freedom in 2009, these boots, the Road Champs, are known as being one of the boots that helped push engineer boots into a main part of the Amakaji or American traditional style zeitgeist, in combination with the John Lofgren engineer boot as well. This is an opinion and a fact that you'll hear told by a lot of people, especially John from Vintage Engineer Boots and Jake from Almost Vintage Style, who are both very knowledgeable when it comes to engineer boots. They're people that I both enjoy, and that's something that they've talked about a lot within their different reviews and videos. Although they have different opinions on this specific boot, it is definitely, no one will deny how much influence that this specific boot has had on the overall industry. These boots are extremely unique, and there are multiple parts of the build of this boot that immediately identify them as Road Champs. One of the first ones, and to me what is generally the most obvious, is how high up the instep strap is on these boots. On many boots, you'll kind of see them being placed at almost a 45-degree angle within the heel stay. For some boots like Clinch, it's even lower, and you'll see on a lot of cheap or crappy boot brands, they place them even lower and it looks very ridiculous, so it'll usually be something like that. Here you can see these is closer. When you're wearing it, it almost looks like it's at the top of your ankle. You can see here that there's a flex point if here is where the bending's happening, and so that's kind of where it is, towards the top, at the very top of your instep. Another unique piece of these boots is how straight the heel is here. You can see that although it is technically a woodsman heel, it has a very straight up heel, a bit of a lower heel. I believe the heel is just around 1.5 inches tall, which is different than something like the John Lofgren Engineer, which has a 1.75 inch heel. Another one of the most iconic parts of this boot is how it comes with a leather sole. The leather sole in combination with the flat forefoot give the front of this boot an extremely sleek look. You can see here looking down that it has a narrow squared off toe box with some slight rounding to it. Two of the final and other most unique parts of this boot is that it's made with a vegetable tanned steer hide, I believe. You can see here that compared to a lot of leather that is popular right now, a lot of the horse hides or the latigos that are popular and being used, which are extremely stiff and thick, while this is a very thick cowhide, you can see as I squeeze the shaft and move it around that generally it's a pretty soft leather despite how thick it is. And then one other thing here, you can see that within this little extender here, that this is using a green leather, which is another iconic part of the boots. It is a little bit more obvious on the black model. For me personally, the Road Champs were one of my grail boots. I kind of just assumed I was never going to be able to get a pair, and I'm very excited that I was able to get my hands on a pair. I bought these used. As you can see, and one example of the use is here on the toe. It's a little bit worn down here. There's some scuffs. These are, I believe, finished with a paint, and so a lot of this wearing off is not actual damage to the leather, but is instead just the finish wearing off, which I'm not necessarily opposed to. I actually really like the way this ages because that means the finish goes, and then you start to get the individual leather patina, which I think extends kind of the life of the patina, which is a part of these boots that's really unique. Due to the fact that these are a cowhide, they obviously will have a relatively thick creasing. There's not going to be a fine creasing like you'll see on calfskin, and so in comparison to a lot of other boots, I would say these might have a relatively thick creasing level, especially in the age of Clinch being so popular. Everybody's really used to, I think, the rolling of engineer boots, which is definitely not something you're going to be getting here. This is very much a different expectation in comparison to that. Unfortunately, Mr. Freedom hasn't released any engineer boots since 2017. About once a year, they put up an update saying, we're working on the engineer boots, they should be out next year, and then the next year we wait, and then we get another message saying we're working on the engineer boots, they should be out next year. Unfortunately, there is a extremely long waiting list. At least that was my understanding from talking to the guys at the Mr. Freedom store in person. And so I just don't think that for many people these are a boot, unfortunately, that they are going to be able to get in any condition except for a used condition, which is a bit of a bummer. Because of that, I had assumed I was never going to be able to get myself a pair until I recently saw a guy I knew on Instagram who was selling these and lived close by to me. I decided I had to go ahead and grab this pair, and I'm very thankful that I did that. I have these in a 10.5. I would say my foot fits somewhere between a 10.5 and an 11. Probably about an E width. I find that these generally fit good, although I did know that they had a bit of this squared off toe box, but I did expect it to be a little bit wider. So they are a tad narrow for my toes. They squeeze me a little bit. But overall, I would say one thing that really helps me with the fit is that they're known for having a pretty tall instep, which for someone like me, who I can't even fit my foot into a majority of engineer boots, that's a really nice feature to have. I tried on John Lofgren engineer boots in multiple different sizes, and I couldn't even get my foot into them. When I first bought my pair of benzene or bristle black engineer boots, and I put them on for the first time, I got my feet stuck in them, and it took me 15 minutes to take them off with the help of an extra person. And so for me, I'd kind of assumed that this was something, maybe a boot trend or a boot style that I just wouldn't be able to wear. Although I did end up going and trying on other alternatives like cowboy boots, and I could fit my foot into those. And so I assumed that maybe I just needed something with a wider shaft. And so I took a chance on these with the taller instep, and these have been a great option for me. And I can get these on relatively easily in comparison to everything else I've tried on. I'm not much of a stitching or a super intricate quality control guy, so I don't really have any personal qualms with this pair of boots. They have a cat's paw heel you can see here, and the leather sole with some nails in it. You can see here that from a relatively minimal amount of wear, the cat's paw sole has worn away quite a bit. They are kind of known to do that. I have a cat's paw on my John Lofgren Eastman tanker boots, and those have worn down pretty quickly as well, although not as quickly as this specific one seems to have, although it is, I do believe, a shorter, shallower lift than what is on my tanker boots. Generally, some people really like having this sole because it really adds to the 30s, 40s vintage aesthetics, while some people kind of have an issue with the overall durability and prefer to swap these out when they get the chance for a Vibram or a longer lasting sole. So unfortunately, because these are so hard to get your hands on, when it comes to price, there can be a huge variability. I got these for only like $100 cheaper than they were originally selling for. And so because of that, for me, I was really just willing to pay money to get my hands on them, especially since they weren't in any serious way worn down or flawed. There was no molding in the footbed or any issues like that to contend with. And so because of that, I really wanted to get my hands on this pair. As far as longevity goes, they've lost nothing in how long these will actually last me. And so for me, I felt like it was worth it to pay a tiny bit less than what they originally retailed for. Although to be fair, the price I paid today, which is $850, was $100 less than their original retail all the ways back in 2009, I believe. I did some quick math, and if they exactly moved up with inflation, this would be about a $1400 to $1,500 pair of boots if they were exactly proportional to inflation. And based on my understanding, I think that Mr. Freedom, up until 2017, had kept their price pretty consistent at $950. Although once we finally do end up getting a new release, I'm not sure what the price is going to look like on those. Personally, when there is a new release, if I can get my hands on them, whether or not they're in brown or in black, I am 100% going to buy them. For me, this is something to where I just don't want to miss the opportunity to have these. This is the perfect engineer boot for me. I've seen a lot of different engineer boots in person. I've tried on different boots, and I've owned a few different pairs. And for me personally, none of them have fit me well enough to warrant keeping. I've either sold them or returned them or tried them on in stores, and I just couldn't, like I said, with the John Lofgrens, I couldn't get them on my feet. And so because of that, finding something like this, which from an aesthetic perspective and from just a pure longing perspective had been my favorite and most wanted engineer boots, and then actually managing to get my hands on them, they fit me the best, and I just like them the most out of any other boots I've tried in this style. For me, that's really a perfect combination, I guess. And so I'm not really interested necessarily in looking at any other boot alternatives when it comes to engineer boots. But if I did ever get the opportunity to buy myself a second pair in the brown, which would be my priority, or a pair in the black, which would be a bit less on my priority, but I would still really love, I'm definitely going to be doing that. I will for sure leave some updates on these in the future once I continue to wear them more, kind of see how they age and how they patina. But for now, that's going to be it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys next time.